So back to your question earlier about people who do business, it's one thing to have an idea, but you must test that idea
Mm.
and retest that idea. And then once you know that the product works, then you get into how do you price it? And people say, well, how do I price? Well, first you got to ask yourself is how much am I worth for my
Mm.
time, right?
Now, how do you do that with having an overinflated sense of ego, or how do you do that when you're battling with an underinflated sense of
Well,
self-deprecation?
you can even get away from ego and just say, okay, what are my bills?
Okay,
Right? Just say,
it's
hey,
practical.
if my bills are $1,000, let's make it a simple number, right? If my bills are $1,000, then what do I have to price my garments at to break even? Right?
Mm.
Now, when I say bills, I'm not just talking about the cost of goods, right? So, but I would say normally in business, we call that overhead, right? So your overhead would just be all your personal expenses. So whatever your personal expenses are, let's say that's $1,000, and then let's say now you have $1,000 to build your product. So you have your break even has to be 2 grand. So now you got to pay yourself.
Right.
So then what is your hourly rate you feel you're worth? So again, if you want to say, hey, my worth again is simply I want to be able to make the $2,000. So you add that on top of it. So now your goal now is you have to hit 4 grand, right? If you
Mm.
hit 4 grand, you paid your bills, and now you made your $2,000 profit, and now you're able to move forward.
Now, Rick, in this journey that you just took us on, you ain't made nothing yet. You just plotting out numbers.
No, you're right. Now you're plotting out numbers, but you have to have a direction in order to go someplace, right? You
Right.
can't hop in your car without navigation. So you navigate
Mm.
and you plot it out. So therefore, now you have a goal to go reach.
And so many of us start things backwards. We're like, "Oh, I'm gonna build a T-shirt," or "Oh, I'm gonna sell some hot sauce. I got my grandmama's recipe. I'm gonna put it in a jar. I'm gonna get a good label. I'm on Canva. I got me a good Canva label." And here you are with 10 cases of hot sauce jars that you done cooked up. Your kids ain't got their clothes on because you've been so busy in the kitchen you couldn't do laundry. Your spouse is somewhere wondering why the whole house smell like onions and garlic.
Yeah, and
And
vinegar. Yeah,
and you got these products, but you don't have a plan. There's no logistical thought to it. There's no concept of what you're going to price it for. You hoping it don't go bad because you got to get rid of this stuff off the shelves. So thinking through, it feels like you have a blueprint before you actually start putting material to or logo or talk us through that sort of tension.
your analogy is the creative. The creative is
Yes,
Wizard of Oz, right? Hey, I click my heel 3 times and I'm going to get to the promised land.
there it is.
You have to
Damn it.
balance creative with business because all creative and no business, that's 90% failure, 10% breakthrough,
Mm.
right? Now you have all business and no creative, well, you're just a smart person with nothing to push. So you have to have balance. But I really gave you I simplified it. We just call that cost per unit. The simplification of it is just, hey, if I want to build my mom's hot sauce, you do have to go through the math on what does it cost to build a bottle.
Mm.
Now, if I do a dozen, is there going to be a discount? If I do 2 dozen, 3 dozen, 4 dozen, you want to do the math all the way out, just so you kind of see where if I have growth or expansion. A lot
Mm.
of entrepreneurs don't think, hey, I'm going to do a t-shirt, right? LDF t-shirt. I put it out. That sucker hits. Now you got 4,000 people who want it, but you got $22 in your checking account.
Oh,
And you're like, well, damn, what do I do now? Well, now it's too late.
right.
It's too late. You can't catch it.
You
And the
missed
problem
out.
with today than was 20, 30 years ago, people's attention spans are like 10 seconds.
Mm.
So
Oh, yeah,
you
that's
get,
generous. I feel like it's more like 1.5.
yeah, but if you get lucky to hit that and you don't deliver, you're done.
Did you ever see the Oprah show, Rick?
I've seen several. Which one?
Do you remember there would be these episodes where Oprah would bring on people who had this amazing product that she loved and they would be so excited because they were on the Oprah show. And then you would hear these stories like within 3 months they were bankrupted because they weren't prepared for the Oprah effect. They had this wonderful opportunity, they had this wonderful product, but they could not sustain the orders. They could not get the shipments out and they literally had too much customer interest and intrigue, and they ended up going into bankruptcy because they could not sustain it, had not teased out what might happen when Oprah says, "Oh my God, it's my favorite thing," in the way that Oprah does. And yeah, they suffered the harm of being too great and not being ready to meet the moment.
And again, that's not doing the math up front. I mean, you have to be able to prepare for scale. I
Mm.
mean, you can prepare for scale, and then I think in our last interview we had maybe a couple months ago, we're talking about how you get the financing.
Right.
So, for example, if Oprah called you up and you called me, I said, girl, before you even do that, make sure you got your financing in place.
Right.
Get the factory in place, to get this in place, let's make sure everything's
Right.
there. So you have to expect you may get 1,000,000 units. How do you
Mm.
finance that? Because if you get 1,000,000 units, that's 1,000,000 people who all of a sudden now you're a fan and they spend their money. And then you send them an email, oh, I'm so sorry, I can't ship you your order. Now one fan is now your enemy.
And you one of them trifling black businesses that yeah, we just got right back to trifling hood. Damn it! We were avoiding the trifling hood as much as possible. This makes a lot of sense. Rick, do you have a hard? Do you have to? I know we had you until 10:57 when the man cuts us off. Can you stay after the commercial break? Say no if you
Yeah,
can't.
let's rock. I'm here. Let's have fun.
Okay, cool. Because I want to come back and talk to the brand, but I feel like we need so much insight right now when it comes to how we think about business, structuring business, starting business, side hustles. Because I don't know if you know, but a couple 100,000 black folks are now newly unemployed. Like as a whole lot of people.
We need to teach them.
Yes. Yes. And I feel we started this conversation yesterday. And my main driving point was, listen, you were working, many of us thank God I work for a black institution. Hallelujah to the ancestors. And I appreciate you, Black Jesus. But most of us are working in spaces where there were just enough of us hired so that the corporation could avoid a lawsuit for not being proactively diverse. We often got the worst assignments. We would often be put in situations where we would have to train people who would then go on to lead the company because we were never considered like company leadership potential. There are so many things, that the health implications and the stress. And I cannot tell you how many nights when I was working in my big fancy law firm and they would give me this big fancy car to drive me home like at midnight because I had been there for 11 hours and I would be on the phone crying to my mama. Okay, I'm a grown woman by this point. I'm crying on the phone to my mama. They're so mean and it's depressing. And she like, it's okay, baby. You just go. And so like working in spaces that are causing us nothing but anguish and heartache, but getting us paychecks, right?
Yes.
Getting us paychecks. Now we're in a situation where ain't no paycheck. And for a lot of us, and also not really sure what to do next, but you were brilliant at that job. You had skills that job made money off of. And so my question to the audience yesterday was, what skills did you have there that were making them all the goo gobs of money that they could pay you, underpay you? Especially if you're a black person, underpay you at the rate that they were paying you and still make profit enough that you were willing to keep coming to work. And how can you retool so that you can think about what it's going to look like? Because Rick, I have a sinking suspicion that it's going to be a whole lot more people pushed into entrepreneurship than wanted to be as a result of this upheaval that we're in right now. What say you about that? I mean, maybe I'm going too far.
No, you're not. I say that we have to go back to the prehistoric days and change our mindsets to hunters. You need to be a hunter now. What I mean by that is now you're only going to eat what you kill.
Right.
So once you put yourself in that mindset, you now shift your sense of urgency.
Wow.
Right? It's a mindset. Urgency has to come. It's a thin line between urgency, focus, and panic.
And at any point, you could be in all three.
and a sprinkling of anxiety, right?
Right.
And that's the hunter. Because remember, you're not eating unless you go kill. So think about it. In order for the hunter to go kill, you have to go research where the food's at.
Right.
Then you have to plan out, well, how do I now acquire that? So let's say, for example, we need to get beef and we're going to go hunt buffalo. Where's the buffalo? How do I get there? So what tools and machinery do I need to bring to get to that place to be able to be in a place to target that buffalo? Now this buffalo is 1,500 pounds. Now how do I take down that buffalo? And once I figure out the mechanics and machinery to do that, now once I take down the buffalo, how do I now preserve it? Because now I need to make sure this thing's going to last me 30 days, right? And once I figure that part out, preserve it, then guess what? I get up the next day and do what? Do it all over again. That's the entrepreneur. It's an everyday deal.
Right.
It may take a few vacations, but there's no vacations. The reward is being your own boss. That's the reward. But it also comes with a whole crop of anxiety, angst. But can you do it? Yes. We've been doing this at the beginning of time.
That's right. We're
You do it at
literally the
the same
first
time. It's a
inventors of
shifting,
trading in
it's,
stores and
it's really shifting your attitude.
mm,
That's what it is. So again, what's funny about when you get the paycheck, you still have the same type of anxiety, but it's different, right? The
huh.
anxiety of performance, anxiety of I'm going to get fired. And also what you and I talked before is like being a hamster on that treadmill. All of us are professional hamsters, right?
That's
We're
right.
kind of just caught up in this treadmill because of comfort.
Mm,
So get out your comfort zone,
yep.
roll up your sleeves, put on your hunter uniform, and go kill. And
Mm,
once you see your shift of mentality, there's no more fear
I
because you
love
got to eat. Then reality kicks in. What are you going to do? Everyone out there who's no longer employed and now you're self-employed, every 30 days, all of us have a report card called bills.
it. Yep.
And bills don't give a goddamn about your personal feelings. Your grandma lost her home. They don't give a damn about none of that. So you got every 30 days you got a report card. That means you need to start today and you got to figure it out. It's
He
what it
said,
is.
you said bills don't give a fuck about your feelings. They really don't. They really don't.